In the church we talk a lot about sacred space and temples, and rightly so. But sacred time is also very, very important. And mostly when we think about sacred time, we're thinking about the Sabbath. In mortality, time is finite, and we fill it with lots of things. But what about sacred time? Time when we kind of try and move away from the things of the world and try and think about eternity. As the church has put this emphasis on keeping the Sabbath day holy, we're not the first people to do that. Throughout time, Jews and Christians have always had to struggle with this. How do I keep the Sabbath relevant in my time? One of the purposes then is to help Latter-day Saints understand the historical significance of the Sabbath and what we might today be able to learn from the ancients as we try to think through how do we keep the Sabbath relevant in our day. I think it kind of goes back to 2015 when then Elder Russell M. Nelson gave a conference talk, The Sabbath as a Delight, and talked about how wonderful the Sabbath is and the blessings that come into our life from understanding and living the Sabbath day. Lots of people are seeing a decline in the Sabbath, and so we wanted to kind of enter into that conversation of how do we keep the Sabbath day relevant for us. Covenants, as President Nelson has repeatedly talked to us about the importance of getting onto and staying on the covenant path, being bound to God and Christ through the covenants we make, and the Sabbath is a major part of that. Making time, we've got to be intentional about it and saying, I'm going to dedicate some of this time to my relationship with God and seeing an eternal perspective of what God wants for us here on this earth. So it's that covenantal relationship and us choosing to bind ourselves to Him covenantally. And one of the best ways of seeing where we're at on that covenant path is, I think, asking the question, what do I choose to do on the Sabbath day? The Sabbath is a time wherein God especially loves to be sought, right? Sacred time so that we seek God and we set aside time. But this is also a time when He loves for us to find Him and to interact with Him and to learn about Him and to have experiences with Him. So I think that that's a wonderful thing.